So in this segment, we're going to be talking about something slightly different, and we're going to be criticising Keir Starmer, or Sir Keir Starmer, or Sir Starmer, or whatever the hell you want to call him. A lot of people are going to get this video twisted from the jump and think by criticising Labour, we're going to allow the Conservatives to win. If you criticise the Labour Party in good faith, which I'm going to do my best to do that, then you are not weakening the left. The only time I criticise the Labour Party is out of love, because I want them to do better. I want them to be a party that not only myself can support, but also other people. And I see the route that it's going down is a very stupid and a very reckless one, which is going to cause a lot of problems. And we're going to be talking about this faux patriotic, business professional PMC class nonsense that Keir Starmer is now pushing. So the Labour Party has always been split between these kind of things of, it's not patriotism anymore, though. It's more nationalism, the issue with people in the UK. Symbols of patriotism. It's very hard to kind of separate the two between patriotic and being nationalistic. And Ed Balls believes in bringing together an internationalist view with the country's national interest is the right balance, and one which has proven fruitful in the past for Labour. What I want to see from this angle is that Labour does get involved with the problems within other countries, the human rights violations of other countries, starts talking about China, India, any other, Qatar, any other human rights violator, doesn't call these things quote unquote internal issues, because he wants to get votes from Indian people or from Qatari people or from Chinese people within this country. I don't want to see that. I want to see the Labour Party being the international party that will represent people. So that's an issue I have with Starmer. We'll be talking about that kind of stupidity with the fake patriotism / nationalism that kind of, it feels like the Labour Party is going to try and waft into, which is a very stupid thing to do. Keir Starmer, he supported the Sky, I think it was called the Spy Cops bill. That's what people dubbed it. Starmer, being in trouble for his past as, the working in the Crown Prosecution Service. And so they want Starmer to give evidence within some cases where undercover cops were involved. It does mention it here. Starmer talking about, I've spent all my life fighting for justice, standing up for the powerless and against the powerful, blah, blah, blah. So Starmer's role in the undercover policing scandal dates back to an episode where 20 activists were unjustly convicted of plotting in 2009 to occupy the Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station. Prosecutors were forced to abandon the prosecutions of another 6 activists in 2011 after it was revealed that the campaigners had been infiltrated by an undercover officer, Mark Kennedy, who spied on left-wing activists for 7 years. And so we need to see why these groups were being spied on and who authorised this and how legal was this to do. Starmer then commissioned a retired judge to conduct an inquiry, agreeing his ally said its remit with the independence, the IPCC, Independent Police Complaints Commission. The judge said Sir Christopher Rose primarily blamed a junior regional prosecutor, while also concluding that the other prosecutors and police were responsible for failures over many months, so they just blame some minor prosecutor guy. Rose's report was silent on the exact role played by Starmer. I mean, that's not a shock considering Starmer's the one that chose him. So it's very dodgy what's happened here. So Rose's report was silent on the role played by Starmer during the miscarriage, making no reference to whether, for example, the chief prosecutor knew about Kennedy and the withholding of evidence, or took part in decisions about abandoning what was a major prosecution. So, Keir Starmer's past coming back to get him, this article being very recent from yesterday, and this video will go out in a couple of days, so just keep an eye out for the stuff being mentioned here. But, Starmer's past possibly coming back, especially where a lot of left-wing groups are kind of wary of police and kind of intelligence officers, because they are there. They do have a history of infiltrating left-wing groups. We've seen that in America as well. So Starmer's record here not very good. But we'll go to the more important issues, which is that centrist newspapers are abandoning him. You've got here from the New Statesman, a consensus is forming among the commentary that Keir Starmer is not up for the job. It doesn't matter. So, commentators and things like that saying Keir Starmer's not good enough. You got the New Statesman. Until Keir Starmer offers a genuine alternative to the Tories, the Labour Party will struggle to cut through, writes Paul Mason. And the thing is, right, I agree with this statement, and I'll be talking about that towards the end of the video. But, you got his last refuge, which is, saying, oh, I'm a patriot, I love the country, and all this stuff. I don't really like these sort of cartoons. I think they're a bit vulgar, but you get the point. And here you've got, Tom Peck saying politicians reach for the flag, reach for the Union Jack when they are out of ideas. Labour is no different. And it's true, Labour don't have any real ideas because they're not telling us if they did have any. They're not saying what they would do differently. And that's a key problem. This is from the client journalism expert. This guy is really cool. He's worth a follow on Twitter, saying that the thing about Starmer is that he's only really a politician for the commentariat Westminster bubble in the first place. So, when the commentariat give up on you and sort of those sort of Westminstery people who say, oh, he's a knight, he's a lawyer, he looks professional, I like his hair, all this stuff. Once those people start turning on you, you got no chance. Because these are the people in the media who are going to start going after you in the news. If he's losing them within a short 10 months is a serious cause of concern, because who else does he really stand for? Because we don't know who is Keir Starmer, what is Starmerism. We don't know what these things are. This article, it just, these people are turning on Starmer. It's not great. If we look at the polls, 38%, he's trailing. If you go to YouGov, which is a reliable pollster, this is from, let's see, what's the date on this one? This is the most recent one, the 28th of January, so it's from about a week ago. You see Labour slightly up in the polls, but, there's a slight advantage given that we're in a pandemic with over 100,000 people that are dead, with the Conservative Party constantly giving money to their friends. A Conservative Party that's failed on so many counts, and he's just slightly ahead. And when other people said Corbyn should be 20%, 20 points ahead in the polls, this, for those same people, where you at? Because your boy's not doing too good. Where you guys at saying he should be 20 points ahead? Because he should be further ahead than 5 points or 4 points. He should be much further ahead. Labour defends its new strategy to focus on patriotism because they don't have any real ideas, and it will alienate young and ethnic voters. It will do that because you're trying to appeal to white working class voters in the stupid way, which is you're trying to appeal to them by saying we are the patriots and all this stuff, when there are different types of people who voted for things like Brexit and vote for the Conservative Party. There are people who are left behind who vote for the Conservative Party who think that somehow they're going to fix the problems that the Conservative Party themselves have created, and you've got the racist ones. If you try to appeal to the racist ones, you will move further away from getting younger people and minorities to vote for you. Yes, young people have a history of not turning out for elections. That's something that younger people like myself need to really work on and really push for. But if you start losing minorities, you're going to have another secondary problem. And so by following this strategy, it's very stupid. And it says here, Paul Wilson, a former MP, saying patriotism should be a given, not a strategy. The thing is, you can do patriotism in a smart way. You can do it in a smart way, or you can do it in a dumb way. This is the dumb way, where Keir Starmer says, let's harness the spirit that has made us the envy of the world to get every child back to school, saying that, he wants kids to be back in school because this is the thing that they want to sting the Conservative Party on, their failure over schools. And so Starmer, using that kind of, we're the envy of the world. To who? Who are we the envy of the world to? We are not in the top, I don't think we're in the top 5 happiest countries in the world. We had the highest death per capita in the world at one point. The only thing we have to envy is the vaccines that have been handed out. That's it. Nothing else. And even then, other countries are ahead of us when it comes to giving second doses. We're only winning the first dose battle because that's what the government are trying to win. You can do this in an intelligent way where you give actual policy solutions and say, I want Britain to have the best healthcare. I want Britain to have the best education. That kind of patriotism where you're proud of your country because your country actually helps you when you fall down, when you have problems. Not a country that you have to battle, loads of other people to get a GP appointment at 8 a.m. Not that sort of country. We were a country where you could get a GP appointment on the same day. If you needed to go to hospital, you would not be sat there for hours. If you needed to get your kid into a school, you wouldn't have to battle loads of other people to get your kid into school. We were a country where you didn't have 35 odd kids in a classroom with teachers being stretched. We were that country. And if you want to be patriotic, go back to that. Go back to a country which works for the people within the country. A country that has an infrastructure system to be proud of. A country that is world leading in industries. A country that is world leading in services. A country that is, more importantly, world leading in helping people, having a living wage, having things like that, having good workers regulations, having things where people don't have to work 40, 50 hours a week just to make ends meet, or have both people living within a home to work just to pay rent or pay a mortgage. A country that actually helps people. That's the kind of patriotism you can push. Not this faux patriotism where, oh, let's go back to when Britain was a world superpower, and all the blacks and all the Pakis and all these people when they were down and the white man was up. Don't try to appeal to these people, because you will never get them, because you will never be racist enough unless you morph into the Conservative Party, and we don't want that. We don't want the Labour Party to morph into that. You will not appeal to these people. What you want to do is appeal to non-voters and people that have been left behind, and young people. They're the people you need to really target in order to win next time out. And you really need to offer solutions. I've seen this article today, which the Labour Party, where is it? Criticises the government for delaying the mandatory quarantine facilities. The thing is, right, if Labour were ahead and actually had a strategy, they would actually talk about which policies they would implement in order to fix the issues with the pandemic. People are stupid in this country, especially some people on the left, where they say Labour doesn't have to give any policy ideas. We're not in an election cycle. Well, if people don't know what Labour would do differently in this situation, what it makes it look like is the government is doing the right thing, because no one is saying otherwise. No one was saying the government should have done made mandatory quarantine facilities last year, like New Zealand and Australia had, countries that have dealt with this pandemic way better than us. They're countries to be envious of, because they can go out and meet their friends. They can go out and have a party. They're people who can go out to a restaurant. Yeah. Those are people to be envious of, because their country actually dealt with the pandemic properly. Our country isn't, not right now. We are the sick man of Europe. We are the sick man of Europe. Our economy is going to tank because we didn't deal with this pandemic properly. And we didn't deal with Brexit properly. Separate issues, right? That are going to tank this economy. We are not a country to be proud of anymore. We are the sick man of Europe. We are the sick man of Europe, and unless Starmer starts talking about that and starts pointing that out, that where are the things he would do differently. You have centrist people, right? Centrist people in the news saying this. You have people saying, please give us something different, offer an alternative, right? That's what Starmer has to do. Where he would open mandatory quarantine facilities. How would he get all of the travellers that come to this country to mandatory quarantine? What facilities would he set up? How would he do this? You can talk about how you will turn this country into a great country. You can talk about how you will revitalise the NHS. The party that founded the NHS will then bring it back into being a world-leading health institution. That's what you can talk about. Those are things to be proud of. How we can have world-leading education, world-leading healthcare. You can talk about how you would get to these points. That's how you offer solutions. That's how elections are won. Instead of, being like, oh, I wouldn't do test and trace by giving it to my mate. What would you do differently? How would you run it? What exactly would you do? Those are the things I'm talking about. When the information came out about Sage wanting to do lockdowns, you should have said, bruv, we would have done this. And this is exactly what we would have done it. Why don't you list out what financial support you would give to people? Instead of saying, we want the government to keep the £20, increase in universal credit. Why don't you say, not only would we do that if we were in power, we would increase it because we understand how hard the situation is right now. We would stop giving out private contracts to companies that have bonds with the Conservative Party or even our party. We would give the contracts out to open tender, or we will deal with them in the public sector and give out things like free school vouchers to the schools in order for them to give them to parents. List how you would change things. List how you would do things. You can change the narrative. You're leader of the opposition. You have clout in this country. You can change the narrative. That's how elections are won. Not by listening to Conservative Party framing on things, but you changing the framing on things. That's how it's done. That's how elections are won. We can go beyond.
Now for a lesson. You may have heard these words before, but I'll teach you what they really mean. Go beyond. Plus. Ultra!
But unless the leader of the opposition starts doing that and starts thinking big, we're going to be stuck in the, oh, well, they're not as bad as the Tories, but then people think the Tories aren't that bad because they've had to deal with the situation. Oh, it's a global pandemic, everyone's struggling now. No, that's not the case. Other countries are doing way better than us, and you can point to their successes and talk about which policies you'd adopt from these countries in order to sort this pandemic out. That's what you could have done, Starmer, instead of saying, oh, I wouldn't have done it like this, or oh, I agree with you, we need to do this. You have to list out how you would do things differently. There's no point just dodging punches. You have to throw something back. You have to counter. You have to counter, and we're not seeing any counters. That's the problem here. Mr. High-end lawyer can't offer any rebuttals. I'm shocked. Him and his team are awful. Him and his team suck because they don't know what they're doing. They think you can play nice. These people are the same people that led the DNC, the Democratic National Party, into massive problems. You can push for Britain to be a world-leading country in certain industries that will give this country a reason to be proud, give the people a reason to be proud, create a country where people don't struggle to live, create a country where people have the tools of success. Instead of living in a country where education system sucks, a lot of kids don't have access to the internet or laptops. So how are they supposed to have an education whilst we're in lockdown? You could have pushed for that. You could have said, this is how we would do it differently. These are the industry bodies we would contact in order to help these kids. You didn't do that. And instead you're going for the patriot. You're trying to appeal to the xenophobic patriots who think, oh, Britain's the best country in the world, we're better than everyone else because we're white and we had an empire. Instead of trying to appeal to those people, push this country in a direction where we are proud of the institutions within this country, proud of the healthcare within this country. That's how you be patriotic, not by hating other people, but by saying we want to be the best in the world and we can do that. And in doing that, you can be patriotic. It's not the patriotism of the racist, it's the patriotism of the proud, of the ones who love their country because it gives them everything they need to live. That's the country we could be.
Now for a lesson. You may have heard these words before, but I'll teach you what they really mean. Go beyond! Plus!
But that is not the country you want to be. Clearly, Starmer. And I'm gunning for you, bruv. I'm going for you, man. I'm getting sick and tired of this nonsense. These are how elections can be won. But instead, you want to go down the, oh, I love this country and I want to appeal to the xenophobes and the other people who vote Brexit because they're a bit racist. I think, I disagree with Boris Johnson here and there, but overall it's fine. You could have pushed for saying how you would have helped self-employed people. I see your Shadow Chancellor, Annalise Dodds. She's constantly talking on Twitter, sharing articles and things like that. Where are you, bruv? Where are you offering these solutions? Why are you not on shows like GMB? Why are you not on shows like BBC Breakfast, giving your side of the story, how you'd change things, how you'd make things different? Instead, I don't know what you are. You're MIA. You're missing in action. Instead, you're doing photo ops with people doing injections. Like, why are you there? Why are you there, bruv? Get on with your job and start offering opposition or leave and have another leadership election before the next election. Because you ain't going to win like this. If you cannot get ahead in the polls, whilst there is a pandemic going on and over 100,000 people have died, because you have failed to give any credible opposition, then you need to go. You need to go. Resign. See you later. Sort out all your issues you have with these undercover spy operations. Go back to being a lawyer. I don't care. All I know is you're not very good at your job right now, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. But I'm getting sick and tired of people saying you can't criticise Starmer, or it's not Starmer's fault, or the press are against him. Like, every Labour leader for the since post Blair have had the ragtops, the tabloids against them. All of them. So I don't want to hear these excuses. What I want to see is a guy offering credible policy solutions in order to deal with this pandemic and the other problems we have in this country. Corbyn was ahead of the curve when it comes to, free internet for everyone, or what they call it, broadband communism. Because now we realise this country, a lot of people don't have access to the internet or decent internet speeds. They can't actually learn things online. And as we move into the digital age, as we move into the future, that's going to become more important, the internet, and people don't have access to it. People don't have access to devices. How are they supposed to learn? So Corbyn was ahead of the curve when it comes to these things. And, Starmer was a part of that cabinet, and now he's left these policies. So step up or just get lost, mate, honestly. Get real bored of you, Keir Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer, a knight of the realm who can't protect his own party, can't protect his own image. It's embarrassing. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. I've rambled on long enough. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.